Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Razia Tabasum from BHSS UNISOO. Today our topic is pollination. Before we go through our topic, I will tell you that all living organisms have one major goal, that is to pass their genetic information to the next generation by creating offsprings. Therefore, flowering plants create seeds which carry the genetic information of the parents, and they develop into a new plant. Now, how these seeds are formed? There occurs a process that is called as pollination. And what is pollination? It's the act of transferring pollen grains from the male anther of a flower to the female stigma. That is, after the pollen grains land on the stigma. Here you will see in this diagram, when the pollen grains land on the stigma, this is the stigma part of the flower, this gynoecium part, and when these pollen grains land on the stigma, they create a pollen tube through the length of the style or stalk connecting the stigma and the ovary. Once the pollen tube is complete, the pollen grains will send sperm cells from the grain down to the ovary. When the sperm cells reach the ovary and the egg cells, fertilization occurs. There occurs fertilization which will result in the formation of a seed. The seed will then be released from the parent plant and will be able to grow into a new plant and continue the reproductive cycle. Then there comes the different types of pollination. There are two types of pollination. Number first, that is self pollination, and number second, that is cross pollination. Self pollination is, in this type of pollination, pollen grains gets transferred from the inner part of the flower directly on the stigma of the same flower. That is, this pollen grain gets transformed from the male part of the plant to the female part on the same flower. This self pollination is also of two types. That is, one is claustogamy, and number second, that is deuterogamy. Claustogamy is when male and female parts are present in the same flower. That is, male part of the flower and the female part of the flower, there occurs pollination, that self pollination, that occurs within the flower of the same plant. And then there is a second, that is deuterogamy, that is male part of the plant is male transfer of pollen grains from the male part of the plant to the female part. That is, male part of this flower is present, both male and female parts are present on the same plant but on different flowers. Its male part is present in one flower and female part is present in the second flower but on the same plant. That means this is a type of cell pollination. There are two types of this cell pollination, claustogamy and deuterogamy. After that, there comes cross pollination. Cross pollination is a type of pollination that involves the transfer of pollen from the anther of one flower to the stigma of different flower. That is, the male part of the flower is present in one plant and the female part is present in different plant. There occurs the cross pollination. And this cross pollination, there occurs different agents by which this cross pollination occurs. Different pollinating agents are present. That means this pollination can occur by means of different agents. And number one, that is wind pollen. That means that's also called as anemophily. That's when these pollen grains are transferred from male part of the flower to the female part by means of wind. By means of wind, this this pollen grains gets transferred. And number second agency is, that is insect pollination. That's also called entomophily. That means pollination occurs by beetle, flies, bees, etc. By these means this pollination occurs. And number third, that is pollination by birds. That's also called as ornithogamy or ornithophily. That is pollination occurs by means of birds in the plants. And number fourth is zoophily. That means pollination by animals. That is by insects, birds, snails, men. That means when the pollen grains gets transferred from one part of the from one plant to another plant by means of insects, birds, snails, men, etc. uh, Dear students, rest I will teach you in the next lecture. Till then, Khuda Hafiz.